the nation.
Ragin Review.
The Ragin Cajuns will be a source of pride for this university, for the alumni, fans, and donors as we achieve success in the classroom, in the competitive arena, and in the community.
It's about to get really fun.
We're looking for dudes that will stand up. Well, Coach, let me tell you today, I'm here and I'm ready to stand up. And I challenge you, Ragin Cajun Nation, to stand up with us. Stand up with us. Let's lock hand in hand and let's walk through the gates of Omaha.
Hey, I love y'all boys. Let's grind every day starting today. Let's do it. Y'all ready? Alarm! Ready? Who's that team ready? Who's that team ready? That's up.
I got one thing to say right here. Cajuns win!
Ladies, gentlemen, children, babies, Cajun Nation, hello once again and welcome to another edition of the Ragin Review podcast. I'm Gerry, joined by Nick, and we have a lot to talk about today, and exclusively we're dedicating it to the Louisiana Ragin Cajun softball team. Now, why is that, Nick? Well, because for the first time since 2016, the road to Oklahoma City passes right through Lafayette at Yvette Gerard Field at Lamson Park. Cajuns hosting their first regional in 8 years, and they were picked to be the number 13 national seed. They'll open up this regional weekend against Princeton at 4:30. They'll take on the winner of Ole Miss and Baylor. So it's a very loaded regional, but it's good because, you know, with the softball tradition we have here, what better way to reward these young ladies than to have a regional here in front of our fans. We know Lamson Park's going to be rocking this weekend, all weekend. So it should be a lot of fun. And because of that, we wanted to give a shout out to the team by having its own episode because they definitely earned it this year.
Yeah, they earned it a year earlier, but we're not going to get into that. They didn't get the pick last year. I think I raged about that yesterday enough. But no, really excited for the ladies. And you mentioned Princeton. Look, we hosted Princeton in baseball in 2016 in our baseball regional. The then governor of what was it?
Jersey.
New Jersey governor. Yeah, it was here.
Chris Christie.
Chris Christie. That was all interesting. Don't think he'll be here for the softball tournament, but you never know. He might be a softball fan. But interestingly enough, 2 regionals, we host Princeton. So just really excited, proud of the girls for the resume that they put together this season and really looking forward to them making some noise in this regional tournament.
Should be a lot of fun. And we do have a special guest coming on. But first, to our sponsors.
Hey everybody, thanks again for joining Ragin Review for another weekly episode. We'd just like to encourage you to patronize our great sponsors like Dr. Brett Venable and Recovery Chiro Med. Have you been in a car accident or hurt yourself lifting on the job? Are you having neck pain or back pain, but really don't want to deal with a long drawn-out process? Then call the chiropractor Ragin Cajun athletes use for their neck and back pain, Dr. Brett Venable. The bottom line is, you just need to feel better. You need to get better quickly. That's where Dr. Brett Venable comes in to make all the difference. Dr. Venable and his integrated team of rehab, chiropractic, and medical doctors have 3 locations in Acadiana to serve you: Opelousas, New Iberia, and of course, main office in Lafayette. Dr. Brett Venable is one of very few chiropractors recognized by the state of Louisiana as a chiropractic specialist. He is also the only chiropractor in the Cajuns Healthcare Alliance and the only chiropractor on the board at Tulane School of Professional Advancement. Before you start to stress about the process, remember, this is exactly why you pay for car insurance. These situations are exactly why you carry workman's comp. There's no need for a court date. Your first call should be to Dr. Brett Venable and his great team at Recovery Chiro Med. No hassle, no waiting, and quick relief. Come and find out what our Ragin Cajun athletes and over 10,000 Acadiana residents already know. For more information, call the Lafayette office at 337-988-2188 or visit recoverychiromed.com. recoverychiromed.com. We'd like to thank Dr. Brett Venable for being an RCAF member and the exclusive chiropractic sponsor of the Ragin Review podcast. Also, a huge thank you to Absolutely Embroidery and More, We know how much Cajun Nation loves their gear. At Ragin Review, we get our gear from Miss Phyllis Thibodeau and the team at Absolutely Embroidery and More. Absolutely has a massive inventory of Ragin' Cajun apparel to choose from. If you can't find something you like, Absolutely can make something you'll like right there in the shop. And if your creation proves to be a popular item with customers, Absolutely will give you a little incentive for helping out with the cause. Bring in your vermilion and white shirts, hats, shorts, socks, dresses, jackets, sweaters, or whatever garment you need to represent the Cajuns. Absolutely also offers customized embroidery services to promote your business on hats, polos, uniforms, etc. Absolutely rounds out the collection with an assortment of exciting accessories for the Lady Cajuns in your life. Earrings, headbands, bracelets, clutches, and bags are just a few options to complete her spicy look. Pass by 3010 Collie Saloon Road in Lafayette and see the wonderful ladies at Absolutely Embroidery and More today. They'll treat you to quality Cajun clothing, complimentary gourmet cookies, and a friendly conversation. And if you're an out-of-town Ragin' Cajun, visit them on the web at absolutelyembroideryandmore.com or visit their social channels on Instagram or Facebook. There, you'll find pictures of what the ladies are putting on the shelves in real time. Once again, folks, please support local businesses and please support businesses that support the Ragin' Cajuns and especially the Ragin' Review podcast.
And once again, thanks to our sponsors, Dr. Brett Venable, Recovery Chiromed, as well as Absolutely Embroidery and More. Remember, they are local. They support the pod. So let's return the favor and support our local businesses, including our sponsors as well. Also, if you want to give to the NIL initiative at UL, please give to the Crew Along, whether it's $2, $20, $2,000, or $200,000. In this day and age, NIL is very important. So please don't forget, if you do want to give to the Crew Along, go to crewalong.net, and please help our student athletes. Okay. Well, so like I said before, Nick and I wanted to dedicate this episode exclusively to our Ragin' Cajun softball team, again, hosting for the first time since 2016 as a 13 national seed. And what better person to bring on than softball superfan, Mr. Rory Strentz. You may recognize him if you ever watch one of our softball games. He's the guy front and center behind home plate. You can clearly see him. He's at every game. He is a diehard fan, a very knowledgeable fan. He also had a podcast dedicated to Ragin' Cajun softball as well as really college softball. Roarman's Ragin' College Softball Podcast. If you remember, he had that a year ago. Really knowledgeable on the sport. So we wanted to bring Rory on. Rory, thank you so much for coming on. How are you? I'm sure you're ecstatic like we are that we're finally hosting a regional. Long overdue.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I'm very happy. Cajuns got it done this year. They got a 13 seed. I think that's a little bit higher than most fans thought they might have gotten, but there's some reasons that happened. I think you have to give a lot of credit to Coach Glasgow for the way he scheduled. It was like they were the team was thrown into the frying pan right off the bat. I know when the team was 9-12, maybe some fans were shaking their heads and going like, hey, what the heck is going on? Yeah, Jerry's raising his hand. So it's like, what kind of year is this going to be? Well, it turned out to be a pretty good one. I think the victory over Oklahoma and the victory over LSU were two big games that led the Cajuns to getting that number 13 seed.
You know what's ironic about that is you talk about, and I've mentioned it numerous times, how the Cajuns started 9-12. I called you that day right before the Oklahoma game because I think we had gotten run ruled by Liberty, or we had gotten beaten pretty badly by Liberty. We had won 1-0 the night before. I think that without seeing the score, I think it was 8-1 or 9-1. And we had to play Oklahoma right after getting run ruled by them the day before. Yep. And so I call you and I'm like, Rory, what's going on, man? Like, why are we off to such a rough start? This is not normal for us. Even whenever, we play a really, really tough non-conference schedule early on, we tend to steal some of these games. And we'll sit around a 500 record or maybe be one or two games below 500, but 9-12, and the way we lost some of these games to some of these teams that I thought we should have beaten, that's when I called you and I said, man, do we have problems? And so sure enough, we had talked about a few things and kind of broke down why we were off to such a slow start. And lo and behold, 3 hours later, we pull off the biggest win probably in college softball around. 3 hours later, we beat Oklahoma, ending their 71 game win streak. So maybe there was some juju to that phone call that we had, Rory. Maybe there were some things that aligned. We aligned the stars in that conversation, because after that, since then, since that day where I called you, we've had some good karma come back and reward us. A 33-5 run, 22-2 in conference play, and 89 straight conference series wins, to where we won the regular season once again. So I don't know what it was about our phone call, man. We did some magic and it's worked.
Well, let's take the credit for it then.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
No, I think, you got, first of all, you had there's a couple of new coaches on the team this year. You have Hunter Beach and you have Shelley Landry. I think it took a little while for them to get their system or systems into place. And I tell you what, I am just so impressed with the job that Hunter Beach has done with the defense. It took him a while to get familiar with the players and to get the players set up where he wanted them to be. But once he figured that out, the Cajuns had more double plays than any other team in the nation. If you would have told me that was going to be the case after about 12 or so games, I don't think I would have believed you. So they have put in a tremendous amount of hard work in the field in order to achieve that. Now, Glasgow said, he was going to work very strenuously or very hard at making the defense better, and he definitely has. I mean, every time a player from the opposing team gets on first base, I'm expecting a double play. I'm expecting a ground ball and for the team to turn a double play. Is that asking too much? Maybe so, but it's happened 40-something times this year. And again, I think that Hunter Beach has just done an outstanding job.
So, Rory, before you go, Gerry, I want to ask you a question on the coaching side as well. Justin Robichaux comes in as his first collegiate coaching gig as the pitching coach for the Ragin' Cajuns, doing a hell of a job. It's kind of like on the baseball side, where we have a former pitcher that came in and is now in his first pitching coach job and doing a great job. Justin he's just really, really transformed, or I guess you'd say stabilized the pitching on this team. Tell us a little bit about what you think has made it such an easy transition for Justin to go into the collegiate level and in his first couple of years really make a difference on the staff.
Well, that's a good question. And I'm going to tell you this. You may not be aware of this. Maybe Gerry is aware of this, but I'm not 100% sure that Justin is calling the pitches. I think Coach Glasgow is calling the pitches. I think he took that duty over about one-third way or so into the season. So I don't really know, obviously Justin has his pitching system that he kind of learned from his dad. I know he has a lot of up and down, left and right. He has the color system where he has 5 different colors on the plate. And I know the pitchers that I've talked to, they really, really like what he's doing. He spends a lot of time in the bullpen, I think, during the games, getting the pitchers who are not on the, in the circle ready to go in. But again, I'm not 100% he's calling the pitches. I'm just going to be honest with you. I think Glasgow is calling the pitches. If you go and kind of sit by the dugout where Glasgow is calling the pitches, he has all of these spray charts for each player. I mean, it's very, very complicated. And, Glasgow knows more about softball than the 3 of us have forgotten. So you really can't question what he's doing. It's working, so, hopefully it'll work a little bit longer this year.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't be surprised if there were some changes within, and not just with Justin. I'm talking about as a whole. I'm sure there were some come to Jesus meetings, if you will, after that 9-12 start. And I think especially after the Oklahoma win, I'm sure there were some things that I'm sure Coach Glasgow kind of mixed and mingled with, fully well knowing that, after a slow start like that, if you want to make a run in conference, you have to make some changes. And it's probably some changes that, might not have been as favorable to whether it's fans or the team, but what was best for the team. You talked about Hunter Beach coming in. I believe it's his first year as an assistant. I know Justin is still in many ways getting adjusted to his job. Maybe there were certain tasks that might have changed with his position. But at the same time, I do think that they've all benefited from it in many ways. I mean, you look at Shelley Landry, first year as a hitting coach. That's a hitting system that she implemented that might have been different from what we recruited to before she came in. So I think what's great about that is even with a slow start and even with some of those internal changes, how the team was able to adjust to them. A lot of times I can break a team, and I feel like in our world, it actually helped. And that goes to show you the selflessness of players, the selflessness of staff to say, you know what, maybe what we're doing isn't working. I'm willing to listen, keep my mind open, and maybe make some changes to benefit the team. And, here we are sitting here in May hosting a regional because of it.
Yeah, no doubt. Of course, Lacey moved on. Lacey was there for quite some time, and all of the players really like Lacey. I mean, I like her a lot. She's a great person. Shelley came in. One thing that just kind of blows my mind is the progress that Sissy has made at the plate. Last year, she was in the lineup because she's good defensively. She hit 125 last year. And this year she's hitting over 300. If you would have told me that, I would have said there's no way she goes from 125 to 300. I mean, I would have taken 200, but she's hitting at 300. I've talked to her about it. She says she has put in a lot of hard work. Obviously, she has done that. And now she's not only a fantastic defensive player, she is also at the plate. And sometimes, a couple of games this year, it's like, okay, so we need a couple of runs here. Oh, here comes Sissy. She's going to hit a home run. And I know she hit 6. She might have hit 7. I'm not really sure. But I'm sure, I'm assuming Shelley has something to do with that. She's a hitting coach. So there's a couple of adjustments in her swing that I see that she has made, and also how she holds the bat. So it's worked out for her. Yeah, it's worked out for her. And that's a result of Shelley's instruction, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, and also too, I have to say, one of the things that we've always kind of lacked in the past was pitching depth, and I find that this year, we already have Sam. I mean, she's kind of the staple, well-known name. She's been a huge factor in the circle, but the emergence of Chloe Riazetto has been huge this year. Anytime you have a lefty come in the circle that can have the control that she has, that's a huge help. But also too, it's good to see. I know there have been times where, Sam may struggle once or twice, and you have somebody to back her up. And to me, that pitching depth is just as important in softball as it is our hitting, because we've always had offense. But if you want to get to Oklahoma City, you got to have more than one pitcher. And a lot of times our Achilles heel was always the fact that we only had one pitcher. If you notice the years we'd go to Oklahoma City, it'd be because we had 2, 3, 4 pitchers, especially those who can come in the circle and relieve. I got to tell you, probably the player I've been most impressed with this year is Chloe. Now, she's a transfer from Florida, correct?
Chloe?
Yeah.
No. Lexi Delbury.
Okay, Lexi. Chloe we recruited Chloe originally, right?
Yeah, she was a freshman last year. She's from Texas, and she's a sophomore this year.
But for her to come in here, I still think with her youth, for her to come in here, and sorry, I mixed up. We had a bunch. I know
it happens.
From some big schools, but with Chloe, I was very impressed this year because of the fact that she really solidified herself as someone you can depend on both in relief and as a starter. And I mean, her performance against Oklahoma in the game that we won was probably one of the better performances I've seen from a Cajuns pitcher in a long time, very long time. I mean, I'm talking back to like Ashley Brignac, that was a huge performance for an underclassman to come in and do that against such a strong hitting team. But I wanted to ask you, what do you think about what we have in the circle right now? I know Sam, she didn't really have her best outing against Texas State on Saturday in the championship game. But at the same time, she's somebody that could come in and look like an All-American and has the potential to pitch like an All-American, as we all know. That depth, do you think we have enough depth right now? If you were to look at our pitching roster right now and seeing the girls who've come in the circle and seeing the type of talent we have, is this pitching deep enough to make a run to Oklahoma City?
I think it depends on how well the third pitcher does. Sam is obviously a fantastic pitcher. This is her third year. She does sometimes get in the circle and it doesn't start out very well for her. For some reason, it takes her a little while to get going, but when she does get going, she gets locked in. Chloe, you talked about the Oklahoma win. She has nerves of steel. Nothing bothers her. If you notice the Oklahoma game, at the end of that game, the plate umpire really started squeezing her. He was making her throw balls right down the middle of the plate. If she didn't, it was a ball, and she was able to get the job done. A lot of sophomore pitchers would have crumbled in that situation. She did not. She's able to come in at a very pivotal point in the game when the game is really on the line, and she just gets on there and she fires away. She rocks and she fires. Nothing bothers her. So her mental attitude on that mound is, I'm throwing this ball, you're either going to hit it or you're not. And you know what? She doesn't strike out a lot of batters. I mean, she lets her defense back her up. And fortunately, the defense is in a great place right now. So you've got Sam, you have Chloe. The question is there a third pitcher that can come in and be effective? I know that Lexi had an injury. I'm not sure how serious it is, but I do think it is affecting her ability. So I think the player you have to look at is Denali Lecker. She's come in. She's been effective. She's a very experienced player. She did well where she was previously. She hasn't been given a lot of opportunity, but yeah, I mean, I think she can do it. Sam Ryan, she has not seen much, time in the circle this year. So I would have to think probably the third pitcher to come in and be effective would be Denali. We're just going to have to see how it all shakes out.
So Gerry, before you go, Rory, one question I have, and I have confidence in the pitching. I understand Sam sometimes, like you said, has a tough time getting started, can get a little wild. I think we saw that against Texas State. I think she had a wild pitch that ended up scoring. Are tons of upside on this team, obviously.
Yeah.
What is your bigger concern on the depth of our pitching and just not knowing what headspace we're going to be in game to game? Or is it, for me, it's not necessarily on the pitching side. For me, it's on the self-inflicted wounds. And that doesn't include pitching, but then also you've seen, and again, Hunter has made a tremendous difference for us defensively this year. But when we start, booting the ball, it's almost like it's a domino effect. Things start happening all over the field, whether it's pitching wise, whether it's fielding. What is your biggest concern going into this regional? Is it truly a pitching depth, or is it just a self-inflicted wound kind of thing? Because that's kind of where I'm leading right now.
Well, I guess you're talking about the game against Texas State, where there were 2 errors, really 3 errors in the first inning, and the game kind of got, I'm not going to say it got out of hand. I think Texas State scored 2 or 3 runs, but if those errors were not made, Texas State might have scored 1 run. I think what happened in that first inning is not normally what's going to happen. This is a big stage for these players. Some of them, haven't been there before. Fortunately for us, it's at Lamson Park, where all the fans are going to be on their side. Of course, you can also talk about base running mistakes. Those things do happen. I'm really confident in the defense. Again, I think they're one of the best defensive teams in the nation. I don't know what their fielding percentage is, but I know it's much better than it is, or rather better now than it has been in the last couple of years. In the circle, I think it's an ability thing, but I also think it is a mental thing as well. It's some players, can handle it. Some players get a little shook up. We're just going to have to see what happens. And, the teams that are coming here, they probably have not experienced the type of environment they're going to experience at Lamson Park. Now, when the Cajuns beat LSU this year, I think the score was 9-4. LSU couldn't handle the crowd. I'm going to tell you that right now. They could not handle the crowd. Sure, you can go to Tiger Park and there's a lot of people there, but it's just not the same environment as it is at Lamson Park. I mean, absolutely no way. It's kind of like going to an opera. I'm not sure all the people there are there to watch the team. It's kind of like a social deal. But anyway, so what's my biggest fear? The hitting part of it, I mean, you look at the lineup, every player in that lineup can hit. Every one of them can. I don't think there's a big time weak spot in that lineup. They can all, perform at the plate. Now they have had some stretches where they kind of go into a slump, and it's like 7 or 8 batters will get put out. But I, you know, I think they've got a really good shot of winning the regional and advancing. So if you'd like to talk about the teams that are coming in and who they are and what might happen, we can do that. But hey, man, look, we're playing at home, right? That's got to be a huge advantage.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, definitely. So let's talk about some of those teams, Rory. I mean, we're familiar with the Ragin' Cajuns. We know what they're capable of. I'm reaching when I'm trying to find something negative to talk about in this regional. So I guess let's talk about our first opponent, Princeton. Tell us a little bit about what you know about what is their mascot? I forgot. I feel like I should know this. But Princeton,
the Tigers,
the Princeton Tigers. Tell us a little bit about what you know about the Tigers coming in to Lamson.
Yeah, Princeton got into the tournament by winning the Ivy League conference tournament. That's why they're one of the teams in the field of 64. Otherwise, they would not have been there. They were 29-16 overall. They finished conference play 14-7. Their strength of schedule was 248, and their non-conference strength of schedule was 204. Now, last year I did go to the Texas tournament. Princeton was there. The Cajuns played Princeton. I think the score was 8-3. The Cajuns won, but I thought Princeton competed very well last year. They competed very well in a couple of other games as well. So yeah, let's not forget they are the number 4 seed. So should the Cajuns beat Princeton? Absolutely. But here are a couple of things to keep in mind. A couple of years ago, I drove all the way to Clemson. It took an 11th inning walk-off home run by Taylor Roarman to beat the University of North Carolina at Wilmington. A year before that, or maybe 2 years before that, the Cajuns played at Tiger Park. It took an 11th inning run to beat George Washington University. Both those teams were 4 seeds. So I'm not saying, Princeton is going to beat the Cajuns, but they certainly should not overlook them.
It's fair game. Anytime you make a regional postseason, it's fair game. We see it in baseball. You definitely see it in softball. So can't take anybody for granted. I mean, Princeton earned their way to this regional. I mean, they had a 29-16 record. They finished first place in the Ivy League. I think in the regular season as well. I think they were tied for first, but they ended up winning their tournament against Harvard. They're a team that it's like Jerry Glasgow said the other day. I mean, you can't overlook anybody. You can't overlook Princeton. They're going to play fundamentally sound softball. So, we can't make errors. We can't blow opportunities at the plate with runners on base. Our pitching's going to have to be top notch. And so, I mean, it only gets harder from the Princeton game, hopefully barring a win. Then you have to go face Baylor and Ole Miss. So I guess my focus is I'm focused on Princeton right now. Just beat Princeton and look good doing it, right? Look good doing it. Because if you win, you'll be able to advance and carry that momentum into, on paper, possibly a tougher opponent in Ole Miss or Baylor.
Yeah, and looking at their schedule, I mean, not a whole lot of impressive wins. They did win 29 games this season. They did face one ranked team, which was South Carolina. They were ranked 22, and they lost 4-1. That was at a neutral field. So I'm not going to say I'm not scared of Princeton. I mean, I'm scared of any team we play going forward. But like you said, Jerry, you can't give opportunities to any team in that situation because we're too far deep into the season. You start giving teams like that hope, and they capitalize on it. So we got to take care of business that first game, and then of course, like you said, we've got the winner of Baylor and Ole Miss, and that's going to be a tough hill to climb there.
Well, I'm kind of glad that Baylor and Ole Miss can beat up on each other first before playing us, because let's be honest, both of those teams are good teams, and we'll talk about those two teams in a second. But that's the beauty of hosting, because anytime you're a 2 or 3 seed, like in baseball, right? You play a 4 seed. If you take care of business against Princeton, Ole Miss and Baylor are going to go at it. It's going to be a hard-fought game for both teams. They're going to be worn out. And so hopefully, again, barring any crazy mistakes and playing fundamental softball, we should be polished and ready to go for that Saturday game if we were to get past Princeton. So, I don't like, and Rory, I want to hear your opinion on this. I don't like the fact that they sent both a Big 12 and an SEC school here. But at the same time, I mean, if you want to go to Oklahoma City, or even if you want to make a super regional, to be the best, you got to beat the best. So I'd rather be challenged now and get past this stage and before heading over to wherever we head over for the supers. But I think it's important that look, as if Baylor and Ole Miss can go into 15 innings of softball leading into Saturday, hey, I welcome that with open arms.
I was going to say the exact same thing. You know, last weekend in the SEC tournament, 2 games went to 14 innings. So let's break the record and go 15. I mean, you know, Baylor, Ole Miss, 15 innings. I'm happy with that for sure.
So
but if you're going to take a look at these teams, let's go ahead and start with Ole Miss if that's okay.
Sure.
Ole Miss finished 7-17 in the SEC. They finished last in the standings.
Dead last.
Dead last. They were one of the last 4 teams to get into the field of 64. Having said that, out of the 7 wins in the SEC, they did win 3 SEC series. They beat LSU at Tiger Park. They beat Arkansas up in Fayetteville, and they beat Auburn at home. And again, it's the SEC. So can they compete? Obviously so. They didn't do that great conference-wise this year. Their strength of schedule was 28. Their out-of-conference strength of schedule was 84. Their ace pitcher, she has just below a 2.0 ERA. They have a couple of hitters who are, I guess you could consider them power hitters, as one has 13 home runs and the other one has 12 home runs. You know, Ole Miss and the Cajuns have some history. They played last year here in Lafayette. The Cajuns won 3-2. I'm not sure how many of those players from last year returned this year. Again, not really sure. I know back in 2020 there was a tournament up in Birmingham at UAB. I happened to go to that tournament. The Cajuns beat Ole Miss both of those games. But again, that was in 2020. So that's 4 years ago. You just got to realize that, hey, they're an SEC team. They won 3 SEC series against Arkansas. Pretty good team, right?
Yeah.
I think Arkansas is pretty good. Auburn,
I was petrified if we weren't hosting, because like I was telling Nick the other night, whenever the brackets were coming up, or the host sites were coming up, you know, there was a little bit of Cajun disaster syndrome that was in the back of my head, where I'm like, you know, they're not gonna give us the host site. And when Arkansas showed up as a 12, I'm like, I don't want to hear Ragin' Cajun. Just don't say Ragin' Cajuns of Louisiana, okay? And then luckily enough, we were announced right after. But you know, Arkansas is a good team. I do want to ask you though, and you know, me, Nick, Josh, we've talked about this extensively, and I want to hear your opinion on it. Now, I think that the standards of the selection process in softball is very different than baseball. Now, the selection committee may say we disagree, but I think in softball it is. I don't think there's a single team in college baseball in 2 weeks or a week away or however long, or Memorial Day, to where a 7-17 or a team with a 7-17 conference record is going to make it as an at-large, even with a high RPI. It's pretty much, I mean, that doesn't matter. And in softball, they seem to be a lot more lenient towards that. And, you know, last year, you know, Louisiana was, I think, had a 10 or 11 RPI ranking. I think they were higher than what we are this year. And we didn't get the host because the reason was we didn't have enough top 25 RPI wins. But when you look at something like Ole Miss, a team that comes in dead last in your conference. Now, this is no disrespect to Ole Miss. This is more on the selection committee. Do you think it's justified to invite a team with a 7-17 record, regardless if they're from the SEC or not? And do you think it's necessary to allow a team with that type of record to not only come in, but come in as an at-large, especially when you have other teams out there that may not be in as strong of a conference, but maybe are more worthy of getting picked as an at-large? Like, what's your opinion on the selection process in softball for regionals? Because to me, it's confusing as can be when I see these types of records and you're getting picked as an at-large.
Well, I'm not an expert at it like Gone Goffin is, if everybody knows who Gone Goffin is. You might want to ask that question to him. But no, I do think that is based. RPI is a huge factor. Top 25 wins, quad 1 wins, quad 2 wins, quad 3 wins, quad 4 wins. There are some teams that were left out who had better records than Ole Miss did. Texas Tech comes to mind. They probably should have gotten in. All 13 SEC teams got into the tournament. Next year, there will be 15 SEC teams. If all 15 get in next year, that's almost 25% of every team in the field of 64 will be an SEC team. Now, they have an advantage because they're always playing against each other, and that really helps their RPI. Is it fair?
No.
If you're an SEC fan, definitely it's fair. If you're not an SEC fan, probably not fair. But it all comes down to the committee members, and it all comes down to how those teams scheduled, how they did, and a ton of it is based on the RPI. And there's some other factor out there that has, it's something like RPI. Maybe it is. I can't think of it. KPR. I don't know, but I'm not familiar with what that is. I don't know if they use a lot of that, and I'm not going to try to be an expert at this because I'm not. I think the committee did a really good job this year, probably the best job they've done in a number of years, not only with the teams that are in the tournament, but the way they are seeded and who was playing who. So that's pretty much my explanation. Again, I'm not an expert at deciding who's going to be in the field of 64 and who's not.
So, Rory, looking at their schedule, I mean, they've played a lot of tight games, but they've also blown out a couple of teams throughout the season. And looking back to their most recent results, because that's obviously going into the regionals, what you want to look at. When they beat Arkansas, they beat them 6-0. They shut them out, which is crazy. They beat them 4-3 and they lost 12-2. And then prior to that, Auburn, they beat them 4-2, 7-2, and then lost 2-1. So it's kind of really hard for me to get a good feel for if they're going to beat you with their hitting or if their pitching is going to be a tall task for us. What do you think is going to be their strength going into this regional tournament?
I did look at that. I think their team batting average, if you have it in front of me, I think it's about 230 something. I'm not sure. Maybe you could look that up. They do have a pitcher. I'm not sure of her name, but she has a 1.97 ERA. I think they may have two pitchers that had double-digit wins. One's name is Brady. The other's name is Furbish, I believe.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up right now. So they hit 272 as
they hit that high. Okay, it's higher than I thought.
And pitching-wise, they've got Grace Sparks. She's got a 1.9 ERA. And then McKenna, I'm going to butcher her last name. Starts with a K, is 2.8.
I think the Furbush pitcher.
Yeah, but as a team, they have a 2.85 ERA. So, not terrible.
Yeah. So are they beatable if they happen to beat Baylor? I think absolutely. Cajuns beat LSU this year. It's kind of funny that Ole Miss beat LSU twice. I don't know if that tells you a lot, but it's a pretty doggone strong regional with Baylor, like Gerry mentioned, Baylor from the Big 12 and Ole Miss from the SEC.
I'll say this about Ole Miss. Now, I would never underestimate a team. Now, granted, I know I talked about their conference record, but one thing about SEC teams when they face that top-notch talent is they are well prepared for postseason play because they've been challenged. Now, does that sometimes backfire because they're worn out from the season? Possibly. But I mean, I would definitely not overlook them. I do think if we had to face them, it would be a close game. I do think it would take a few timely hits to beat them. But I think the reason why I asked about the whole selection process was that I think it's just, I'm one of those type of fans that believes that if you have a certain record, in certain cases, like a conference record, or you're 10 games below 500, I don't know. I don't think,
I get it.
To me, I don't think you should make a regional. Now, again, that could change with Ole Miss because, again, they are a good team and they're capable of winning this regional. At the same time, I think you have to kind of draw the line there a little bit,
Well, I don't know.
In defense of them, I think maybe the reason they are in the field of 64 is because they won 2 out of 3 games against LSU at Tiger Park. That's a big accomplishment when you look at RPI. I mean, that was a feather in their cap.
It's a good point.
You can't overlook those wins either. But at the same token, I'm with Gerry. Like at some point, conference losses have to matter. So it's just it's hard to. I just think when you have a team like Ole Miss, what makes them scary is you don't really know what to expect because they've shown they could beat really, really good teams, which Baylor and we are. But at the same token, they can also be a Jekyll and Hyde and not play very well. So I don't know. For me, that kind of team in a regional, you don't know what you're getting. With a Baylor, which I guess we can transition to Baylor, you know what you're getting when you're playing a Baylor. And so to me, that's a little less scary. You know what you're getting out of that matchup, especially since we played them 3 times a season already, right?
Yeah, we did. Baylor's had a very interesting season. They finished 14-13 in the Big 12, but it's how they got to 14-13. At one point, they were 5-13 in the Big 12, and they reeled off their last 9 games. They swept 3 conference series to get to 14-13 in the Big 12. They beat UCF, they beat BYU, and they beat the University of Houston. They finished with 1 game above 500, whereas at one point they were 5-13. They were 32-20 overall. Their strength of schedule was 4th in the nation. Their out-of-conference strength of schedule was 6th. So, they played the Oklahomas. I mean, they played the Oklahoma States, and you can see why their strength of schedule was so high. Now, as you mentioned, Nick, Baylor came to Lafayette. They won 2 out of 3. That was very early in the season. The Cajun team that was on the field is not the same Cajun team that is on the field now. The Cajuns won the first game 4-1. Chloe pitched I don't know, I think she pitched maybe a 5-hitter or something. I'm not really sure, but Chloe pitched the entire game. But when you look at it, Brooke was at shortstop. Sam Rowe was at third base. Lauren Allred was at first base. That has all changed. Lauren is out for the year. You have Elstead, who is now at third base and is just a fantastic third baseman. And for the first 2 games in that series, Sissy was not even in the lineup. All right. So I think that made a huge difference. The Cajuns lost the second game 6-0. Sam Landry and Chloe Riazzetto did not pitch in that game. Okay. Baylor had 13 hits in that game. They won 6-0. And they came back and Baylor won the last game. Sam pitched about half of the game and Chloe pitched the other game. I don't recall what the score was. But hey,
3-2.
3-2. Yeah, I thought it was.
That game was winnable. We just couldn't get a timely hit.
Yes, that's right. They played many, many times over the year. Glenn Moore has been here time after time for the last 20 years. He's done a great job with Baylor because Baylor is a private university. You have to be pretty doggone smart to go to Baylor University. If you don't get a scholarship, it costs a fortune to go there. So, does he have the best players? No, but he's done very, very well. He knows the Cajuns probably like the back of his hand. I saw him play last year at Baylor. I made that trip. He had a couple of good pitchers. I think one of those pitchers is back. I'm not sure how good they are as a hitting team, but they know each other very, very well. So there's not going to be any surprises like Ole Miss. Well, Ole Miss, what are you going to get with Baylor? Even though their season was kind of up and down, the Cajuns are very familiar with them, and I know they're scouted out very, very well. So if you're going to pick Ole Miss or Baylor, who would you want to win that game? Well, first we wanted to go 15 innings, and I would have to say I would pull for Ole Miss to defeat Baylor simply because,
Yeah, and looking at you were talking about stats. Looking at their hitting stats, they're hitting 288 as a team. Their opponent's hitting 249 against them, and they've got a 3.53 ERA as a team. So I mean, oddly enough, it's a familiar. The stats are familiar if you compare them to Ole Miss. But as you said, the difference is Ole Miss kind of limped throughout the season, whereas Baylor limped through the first part of the season, but got better as things went. So that those stats can be a little bit deceiving because they struggled so early in the season. When you do look at their schedule, though, you'll notice that they have a lot of low-scoring games toward the end of the schedule, and those wins, they offensively they weren't crushing the ball. I mean, they did crush it against BYU, but I think a lot of schools crushed it against BYU. But really towards the later part of the season, the score was 4-3, 2-1, 1-0, 1-0, and then they kind of turned it on against UCF and Houston. So just very interesting to see the dynamics between the two teams that have similar stats but got them in very different ways. So either way, I'm with you. I'd rather face Ole Miss after 15 innings. Jerry, I don't know if you feel the same way, but
absolutely,
I'd rather not face Baylor in game 2.
Absolutely,
well, if the Cajuns get past Princeton, which we all expect them to do, the key to this is, of course, beating Princeton and winning the first game against either Baylor or Mississippi. You've got to win that first game. To come back on Sunday and win 2 games, it's very difficult.
I agree, especially.
So if they move on, they're messed up in a super regional against Florida.
So let's talk about that. So let's transition over to Florida. So, of course, Cajuns getting the 13 seed. So that means we're matched up with the 4. The 4 will be happening in Gainesville. The Florida Gators getting the 4 seed. They'll take on Florida Gulf Coast. And then in game 2, got to give a shout out to the Sun Belt Conference. South Alabama getting in as an at-large. I'm not going to lie. I did not expect that, but I was very happy to see their name show up and see their team celebrate. Always good for the conference. South Alabama will take on FAU. So South Alabama is the one non-Florida school that will be in the Florida Regional. But congratulations to the Lady Jaguars. Huge accomplishment. I know they lost in a heartbreaking walk-off to Texas State in the semifinals, which I was kind of upset about as well, because I would have liked to rather take on South Alabama in the championship game over Texas State. Yeah. But they were a team that's been hot as of late. It looks like they've kind of found their niche, and they were able to do just enough to get into the field of 64. So congratulations to South Alabama. Rory, what's your opinion on the Florida Regional? Do you think the Cajun, do you like the fact that the Lafayette Regional was paired with Gainesville? How do you feel about that? What do you see coming out of that regional with those 4 teams competing there?
Florida is the hottest team in the SEC. It ended that way. They won the conference tournament. They've won 8 games in a row. In those 8 games, they've scored 69 runs. So they're scoring almost 9 runs a game. They're just hot right now. They have the freshman pitcher, Roth, how do you say her name? Rothrock, I believe. And she's doing well. She's a freshman pitcher. They have home field advantage. South Alabama is there. I mean, this is Olivia Lackey's last year. She has had a very, very good season. Can she beat Florida? I think she can. Can she beat Florida twice? I don't think that's going to happen. I see Florida advancing. This is one of those years where South Alabama's performance at the plate has improved. Olivia now has some hitting to back up her exceptional pitching. I think they can give Florida a good game for 1 game. I don't know if they'll win it or not. If it goes to 2, I don't see South Alabama beating Florida twice, simply because, like I mentioned, Florida is on fire right now. I mean, they're just performing really well at the plate, in the circle, in the field. And, it takes a lot to win an SEC championship tournament, and they just did it. So, again, I think they're a very, very hot team right now.
I got to tell you, what's impressed me looking at South Alabama's schedule is, I know we went down to Mobile and took care of business. We swept South Alabama down in Mobile, especially. I think we had, a 15-run, or was it a 13-run inning or something like that?
Yeah, but you know what that score of that game was going into the last inning?
It was 2-0. We were losing.
Yeah, exactly.
We had to tie it, and then we just let's just score another 13 runs to add icing to the cake. But I was very impressed with going down there to get the sweep. Anytime you go to Mobile and you sweep them, I mean, that's a huge accomplishment. I mean, let's just be honest. What South Alabama has built as a softball program is very respectable and commendable in the Sun Belt Conference. Anytime you talk about Sun Belt softball, it's always us. Texas State and South Alabama and Troy are always kind of added in that mix. And of course, JMU having a down year, they'll be back. So it's good to see some parity in our conference, which strengthens our conference, which in turn helps us get regional hosts. But anyway, I wanted to point out with South Alabama, they finished the season 32-18-1. The tie actually coming from a game against number 19 Arizona in a tournament earlier this season in Tuscaloosa. But if you look at their schedule, they have some pretty impressive wins. They've defeated South Carolina in the Gamecock Invitational. They beat Alabama once. They've tied with Arizona. They could have won that game. They've beaten Arkansas one time. They've beaten Texas State once. They also beat Mississippi State once. And so if you look at the schedule, and then they got walked off by Texas State the other night, they've actually been very competitive against the best of the best that their schedule had to offer. And their RPI is at number 35. And I know you talked about the fact that they might not have enough pitching to beat Florida, but I do think when you have those type of wins during the season, I would think they're pretty well polished to take on Florida. I mean, if there's any team or any preparation to take on a hot team like Florida, it's playing that type of schedule like we have, I would say, and winning some of those games. So I must say, I'm looking at their schedule, it is pretty impressive to see some of the wins that they have, especially in non-conference.
Yeah, I mean, Olivia Lackey is kind of known as the SEC killer. I mean, she defeated 4 SEC teams. Arizona, that game was tied. I think South Al probably would have won that game. Beat Texas State, and I mean, she definitely can get it done. I mean, there's no doubt about it. But I think beating Florida twice is going to be a tall task, for sure. But Alabama, South Alabama, I think they go by South. I think they like to be called South. So yeah, great year for them. It's good to see that. You have South, you have Texas State, you have Troy. It really helps, the Sun Belt Conference.
So they'll be
good competition.
They'll be taking on FAU, so they'll be challenged there. FAU being a really good team as well. So I'm one of those fans that as long as it's not Texas or Oklahoma, even though Florida's hot, I think it's fair game. I like the fact that we are not paired with Texas or Oklahoma. I had a bad feeling they were going to find a way to pair us with Texas and Oklahoma, considering the fact that I know we don't use the term P5 in softball, but we're the only school in a non-major conference that's hosting. So, sometimes the committee likes to play that game of, well, let's put them with the number 1 or number 2 seed. I was glad to get the 13th seed, which I know Jerry Glasgow had said he was expecting somewhere around a 14 to 16. Are you surprised that Louisiana got the 13th seed? Did you expect that based off of all of the semantics of numbers and data? And I mean, I'm just happy to host, to be honest with you.
Absolutely. I mean, if it was a 15 or a 16, we're very happy to host, but I'm glad it's not. I'm glad it's a 13. Like I mentioned, I think it's maybe one step higher than most people thought. I thought that, again, the game against Oklahoma and the game against LSU, I think those were 2 determining factors in getting that 13 seed. Going back to Florida, Florida ended up number 4. Going to the SEC tournament, they were probably number 7. And because they won the SEC tournament, they jumped all the way to number 4. I mean, that's a pretty big jump. So, they had a little lull in their season. They lost some games, and there's some games, I think, in their schedule that really weren't that close. They gave a bunch of runs in a couple of those games. So I think they're hittable. If the Cajuns get there, a couple of things I do want to point out. In 2008, the Cajuns made it to the World Series. They were the number 8 seed in the World Series. Florida was the number 1 seed, and guess what? Ashley
beat them.
Beat them.
Tank hit that home run in the 8th. I saw it on YouTube about a week or so ago. It showed up on my YouTube feed, and I was able to watch a little. I think the whole game is on. I was able to watch most of the game.
Oh, that's awesome! I'm gonna have to go back and take a look.
I was gonna say in 2020 we had before the season was canceled. Yeah, we beat them 2 out of 3. I think we shut them out one of those.
No, that wasn't in 2020. That was Glasgow's first year.
Okay.
That was Glasgow's first year, and basically what happened, Glasgow got here very, very late. I mean, he didn't even know who his players were. So the Cajuns lost the first game 4-0, lost the second game 9-0, and in the third game, Cassidy Shomo hit a walk-off home run to beat Florida. And I will all right, this is going to be good. Here's a freshman player that just hit a walk-off home run to beat the Florida game. So that was really good. I think in 2020, I think what you're talking about is that Louisiana went to Florida for a 3-game series. Florida won that first game. They shut out the Cajuns 6-0, and then the Cajuns won the next 2 games. And what I remember is that Kerry Boswell hit a 2-run homer in one of those games. I was watching it at Pete's with some other fans. And so, to go down to Florida and win 2 out of 3, look, it's possible, right? They did it in 2020. And if they have to go back, let's hope they do it again in 2024.
We've seen it. It's happened. We've beaten them before. So why not make it deja vu? Nick, you want anything that you wanted to add on the Gainesville Regional?
No.
Just one more thing. Florida, the Cajuns in Florida played twice last year.
Did they?
And The Cajuns won the first game. I think it was 1-0. Alexa hit a home run, and then Megan Shorman pitched that game. And then the losing pitcher for the Gators, guess who it was? Lexi Delbury.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. We beat them 1-0, and then they stomped us 11-2.
Yeah, 11-2 the second game. Now here's another thing that's very, very interesting. We're matched up with Florida. We've got 2 ex-Florida players in Lexi Delbury and Sam Rowe. So that's probably an advantage. I mean,
scouting report.
Well, they know exactly.
Scouting report.
I mean, they know what's happening in Gainesville. So that's a good thing.
So not adding on to anything on the Florida conversation, Gerry, but do want to kind of back up a second and say, before we talk about, how what the keys would be against Florida for us to advance to Oklahoma City, let's talk about advancing out of our own regional. I know it's a cliche. Hey, what do we have to do? Well, we got to win all the games. But what do you think is the key for us as a team to be able to advance in this regional to super regional play? Again, to me, it's all about game 2. I think if you put it together in game 2, assuming you win against Princeton, which we should do, assuming we go into game 2, I think that's the key to winning this entire regional. Your thoughts about what it takes for us to get out of Lafayette and go on to Gainesville, or whoever wins the Gainesville regional?
You're asking Gerry or me?
No, I'm asking you, Rory. Sorry.
Oh, you're asking me? I think it all comes down to pitching. I mean, I really do. Yeah, it comes down to pitching. Is the Cajuns pitching staff deep enough to win the regional? And are they deep enough to move forward? I think the Cajuns are going to score some runs. I think the fielding is going to be exceptional. It just depends to me, for me, what happens in the circle.
Are you picking the Cajuns to win? Non-biased opinion, by the way. Are you picking the Cajuns to win the regional? I am.
Yeah, I think the Cajuns are going to win it. I think it's going to take a final game on Sunday to do it. I don't think they're going to sweep through. I think they probably are going to have a loss somewhere along the way. Hopefully it's not the first or second game, because if you lose the first or second game, you've got to play 5 games. If you win them, you only have to play 3. So that's a huge difference, especially on the pitching staff. I think they're going to win it. I think they're going to move on and then make a trip down to Gainesville or maybe South Alabama and see what happens. South Alabama's a lot closer. So, go south.
No, well, actually, I mean, South would have to come here because they're.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. My bad.
Any team not named, you're pulling for any team not named Florida, because if any team not named Florida wins and we win, then guess what? We're going to be having a super regional event next week here in Lafayette. I like the Cajuns. I like the Cajuns right now. I think the X factor, and I'm glad you brought up pitching, Rory. I think the X factor is Sam Landry. If Sam is on, and you have Chloe to back her up, I think that's lethal for us, because if you look at our hitting right now, we're back, as a season as a whole, we've batted .317. I like the fact that usually in the past, we've always had a bunch of power hitters. Everybody's kind of spreading the wealth this year. If you look at our lineup, I think what stands out, I mean, look, Maya Davis doesn't even have a home run. She's probably our best hitter. She doesn't have power, but she gets on base and she's fast. So, you can depend on an extra base hit by Maya. Brooke Elistad. How about Brooke? Sunbelt newcomer of the year. She's got 8 home runs. Maddie Hayden's pretty much a slap hitter, but she could put the ball shallow infield. She could put the ball shallow outfield. She's another one. Fast, just like Maya, can get on base. And if you're not careful, she'll get extra base hit and she's on second in the blink of an eye. Sam Rowe, she's really played her role, 9 home runs. Lainey Crater, 7 home runs. Vic Valdez, including that big home run last week against who was in the semis we hit that home run against Troy. She's got 9 home runs. Lexi Langlier, she's got 9 home runs. And of course, Cece, she's got 6 home runs. Everybody's kind of spread out on their home run hitting. There's not as much power, but there's enough to where there's just enough power to hit it over the fence or over the wall, but also they can get on base. I like the fact that we have hitters who you don't have to depend on just one, right? We always have the 1 or 2 hitters and they're going to bail us out. Everybody can hit. The main thing is I hope I see a very disciplined approach at the plate. No pop-ups. get the timely hits. Even last week against Texas State in the loss, I noticed we got a few timely hits. We just couldn't stop Texas State. They were just on a roll that day. But I think the key to victory, to me, the X factor in the circle is going to be Sam. And I think if we can get timely hits and keep whoever we're playing, whether it's Baylor, Ole Miss, or Princeton, keep their defense off guard in the field, I think we can cruise through this thing. Now, 2015, there's deja vu, right? We lost to Baylor on that Sunday in that first game, and then we ended up winning, and I think we run rolled them in that second game before heading over to the Auburn Super Regional. I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't mind. Look, you're in a regional, you may drop a game, but I think we have the depth in all three factors: fielding, pitching, and hitting. We just gotta execute. I think if we
are you using the word cruise? I hope they can put it on cruise control. I think it might be a little bit more difficult than that. I want to point out one other player, and I don't want to put a lot of pressure on her, but I think she's going to play a major factor in how well the Cajuns do, and that's Kayla Falterman. As a freshman, Kayla hit 400. To me, she can put the ball anywhere on the field she wants to put it. She did not see a lot of playing time this year, but recently she has been on the field in right field, which means she's getting her opportunities at the plate. Probably about maybe a month or 3 weeks ago, because she had not gotten a lot of playing time, her batting average was 115. Now it's about 250. I mean, you can look it up, Nick. I don't know, but Kayla Falterman.
It's at 271 right now.
Is it that high? Well, she's just been doing very, very well lately. I think she is a fantastic player. You've seen some catches she's made out in right field, and I think she's going to be a big factor in the Cajuns' success. I really do. Again, I don't mean to put the pressure on her, but they've kind of figured out who that 9-hole hitter is now, and I just hope she continues to play as well as she has been playing.
Yeah, it's exciting. And look, Kayla's, she's been really big in the utility side of things. I know you said she's been in right field, but to be able to take her out of the dugout and let her pinch hit every once in a while and just get in the game has been huge, because it kind of takes the pressure off everybody else. I mean, last year, you had Carly Heath, you had, before Lauren Allred got hurt, you had her to depend on. And of course, it's kind of sad to see her go, but when Jordan Campbell left the team, that was tough. I was kind of curious and concerned on how that would affect our lineup, but it seems like it's business as usual. I mean, right now, with the last time we spoke about the concerns back in March, I mean, this team has really turned it on with the bats, and that's very important for us, because in games, there's a bunch of games we've won where we've had to out-hit the other team. I mean, maybe our pitching wasn't on, and we've actually have had to use our bats to get us over the top. But look, overall, I like our chances right now. I think playing at home, the excitement of playing at home, the emotions of playing at home. I know our fans have been dying for a host after what happened last year. I'm hot on the Cajuns right now, and that's non-biased. I'm hot on them.
One thing you have to keep in mind is that the Cajuns are without Lauren Allred. The Cajuns are without Jordan Campbell, and the Cajuns are without Sophie Piskus. You know how much power that is gone from the team from last year, and they were still able to get it done. That's what impresses me. I mean, that's, Gerry always said he had a very deep bench. Well, yeah, he has a very deep bench. Yeah. So we're down to maybe 18 players now, but it's not as deep as it once was, but he got the job done. Let's just pray there are no injuries.
And I think the X factor, as you alluded to earlier, Rory, was the fact that we have that home field advantage. I think more than anyone in the country outside of some top 10 teams, that is going to be the ultimate factor this weekend. So that's why I'm high on the Cajuns pulling out the win. Gerry?
Yeah, also too. So now that we've established kind of our regional predictions and whatnot, we talked about the matchups. I wanted to ask you, you went to Adopted Dog Brewery on Sunday night. You went to the watch party, and I got to say it was well attended. I didn't have a chance to go, but it was well attended from what I saw in pictures and social media and the videos. Talk about the atmosphere there. One thing that we can't deny with Ragin' Cajun athletics is, we always talk about how our sports are kind of divided amongst fan bases, right? You've got your baseball crowd, you've got your softball crowd, you've got your football crowd. And for the most part, everybody pulls for everybody. But one thing that I always find that is diehard as can be is our softball faction. And I know you're right in the heart of it. Why do you, first of all, let me ask you, because I know you follow softball to a T. Why do you think that is? And secondly, whenever, I mean, I'll give you an example. So the other day, the president of Texas State had to basically put out a tweet saying, we have to drown out the Cajun fans. When you're doing that in your own home stadium, playing for a conference championship and a chance to possibly host, I mean, what do you think it is that causes so much passion in Ragin' Cajun softball? Why is it that we have such a diehard fan base? I love the fact that we have a diehard fan base, but being in the middle of it, going to the games, where does that passion come from? And I know winning has a lot to do with it, but it's a very, very loyal bunch and a very passionate bunch. What is it that you see that makes Ragin' Cajun softball such a passionate sport here in Lafayette?
Well, I think the first team is so doggone good. I mean, if you look in the stands, the loyal fan base, a lot of those fans have been going for years and years and years and years. New fans are added every year. There are a couple of people, not a couple, but more than a couple of people that I know who attended softball games this year, and I've never seen them there before, which is a good thing. I mean, I think that is fantastic. They're a loyal team. They love the girls. They love cooking for them. They love the atmosphere. You mentioned that, Lamson Park is one heck of a place to play, and there's some other ones across the country. Really, the only one I can think of is the Rhodes House in Alabama. I mean, it's very similar. It's bigger. They have a berm, but they have a tremendous fan base. But some of these, even some of these SEC teams, LSU has a good following as well, but it's just kind of different. I don't know why that is. What I would like to see going further or going forward is to see, look, I'm old, all right? So most of the players are my age or older. I mean, most of the fans are my age or older. I'd like to see some younger fans go out there. I don't know why the students don't go. I think they get free tickets. I'm not really sure. But, just think if you could put even 200 students at a softball game, how great it would be. I don't know why they don't come out. When I was in college, I went and watched them play. But it's just a loyal fan base. All those people that attend those games are really good people. And, they contribute not only by being in the stands, they also contribute monetarily. And it's a good thing.
Yeah, I was talking to Nick and I were discussing this last night. And one of the things that, that these so-called sports experts like to do is they like to divide mid-major from major college sports, right? I don't consider our softball program a mid-major. When anybody says that we're a mid-major program, and I think somebody had mentioned it in the selection show, and I'm just kind of like, you should know better by now, right? It's like Gonzaga. Nobody calls Gonzaga basketball a mid-major. Nobody calls UConn basketball a mid-major. I think Louisiana softball is a major contender in college softball. I mean, it's obvious, right? How many schools have 25 straight years of regional appearances, 6 College World Series appearances? I think this year marks the 25th straight year we've won 40 plus games. We've hosted regionals, it seems like every 5 or so years, if that. And so I think that culture has kind of brought in people. But yeah, one thing about UL softball is whenever you have a down year in athletics, maybe baseball's not playing up to par, football has a bad year, you can always rely on softball to kind of give us something to pull for, and I guess that consistency plays a huge role in it. So I know I mentioned you were at the watch party. How was the watch party, by the way? How did you enjoy it? I know the atmosphere seemed pretty great from what I saw. Good times. They did a good job hosting at Adopted Dog.
Oh, they did. I mean, they're big UL supporters. I mean, the place was packed. All of the players were out on the patio. They were seated at this big table, and you couldn't really go up there and really mingle with them that much because they were getting ready for the ESPN shot. So they were kind of in one part of the restaurant. All the fans were either sitting right across from them or actually inside of the restaurant. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. Again, it was the same fans that you see at the park, supporting their Cajuns, just very diehard fans. And where the Cajuns go, they're going to go as well.
Yeah, and going back to having the students more involved in the games, I just think it's an ask, honestly. I mean, I think if we just have the opportunity to ask the students to come, they'll show up. But we've got to make it an event. This will certainly be an event. I hope that the students turn out for this regional, because this is a privilege to host a regional. And hopefully, if some of those students come out this week, and maybe that'll be something that they look forward to next year. So I think that just hosting a regional brings all of these dynamics together and hopefully cultivate some new Ragin' Cajuns fans. And I'm with you, Rory. I think across all of athletics, we need to start cultivating those younger fans to carry the torch for us when we're all gone. So I'm glad you mentioned that, and hopefully this is a step forward in that direction.
I don't know if it's a softball thing, but I watch a lot of softball on TV, and when they do have stands that are low and you can actually see the fans for the whole game, like you can see me every game. And you look at the fans in the crowd. They for the most part are older fans. I mean, 50 plus. I mean, I don't know if y'all recognize that or not. But there's now don't get me wrong, there are softball players who are teenagers or maybe younger than that who may go with their team and watch. And you see that at the Cajun games sometimes where an entire team will come in. I really think that the Cajuns, if a softball team shows up, I'm talking about, I don't know, what do you call it, not Pony League, but you know what I'm talking about. They should let them in at a discount to get into that game and support the Cajuns.
Agreed.
And fill up those stands in the outfield.
Yes, 1,000% agree, and we don't do that, which is
that's
don't.
a
whole nother podcast.
No, it definitely is. Absolutely.
Well, it's kind of like if you go to Costco or Sam's and you get like those little like they'll give you like a little cup of a certain food, or what they call like those
Samples?
advertiser trays. Yeah, the samples, right?
Yeah.
We got to do something similar to create those samples, right? So if you have like Little League softball, like the kids softball or Little League softball, let the kids come in at a discount. Let them see for themselves what the atmosphere is like, and you can attract the fan at a young age, and I mean, you can reel them in. And I think that's very important, especially for a program like ours that consistently wins. Like you said, if your fan base is getting older, you got to go find some more fans, right? And so I think that's a golden opportunity. I noticed they're starting to do that more with baseball. Like after the game, they let the kids run on the field on Sundays and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, if they can do that for softball, I mean, that would be huge. And of course, you keep attracting the opponents you attract. We've done 3-game series with Texas. We had the Tigers come in this year. We've done 3-game series with Alabama. I know Gerry has all the connections he needs to create good schedules. He can make any phone call at any time to anybody, which is why he makes the schedule that he makes. But I think that also too attracts the people to come in numbers and droves. And I think that's why, I think that's why we have the atmosphere we have. So no, it's going to be exciting. I'm really excited about this weekend. I know you're going to be excited about this weekend. Are you going to every game? Or are you just going to the game that the Cajuns are playing in? Like,
no, I'm going to go to every game. I've got all 7 tickets, so hopefully I won't have to use all of them.
Well, yeah.
It's I'll be there Friday early. They're having a little tailgate cookout in the parking lot.
Very fun.
So, come and join us.
Yeah, I was going to say.
You have any tickets, Jared?
Actually, so my dad should be getting us some tickets. That's the plan. I have to see.
He ain't buying tickets, Rory. Come on now. His dad's going to take care of that.
Hey, no, actually, it's only $30. So, I mean, I'll be more than happy to pay it. The main thing is my schedule this weekend. I want to go. Friday and Saturday are going to be tough. I definitely want to go to the Sunday game if we make it that far. That's one that I don't want to miss. Also, too, just be aware, we might have some weather coming in this weekend, so that can change the schedule a little bit. For Cajun fans who don't know, I know for season ticket holders like yourself, Rory, you already received an email the other day. But for non-season ticket holders, tickets are available. You can go to the Cajun Dome. Or I'm sorry, I don't want to make that mistake. You can go to the box office at the UL track and field facility and get your tickets. You can call, I guess you could call the UL athletic department. They'll be able to guide you, or you can go online to get your tickets. I believe they're only selling package deals right now. So it's all 7 games. On Friday, starting Friday, I believe there's single game tickets that you can buy, whether it's at the gate. Well, I mean, I don't know if they're going to be available at the gate, but you can buy them the day of the game. So if you do want to buy tickets right now, you can buy them through a ticket package deal that'll have every game this weekend. I believe they're either $30 or $35 in that range. So they're affordable. And most of the tickets are going to be GA out in the outfield. So just be aware of that. Barring any game results or anything like that, you could go into the secondary markets and maybe find some grandstand seats. But for the most part, as of right now, the only availability will be in the GA section in the outfield. But there still are tickets available. So we need Lamson to be rocking this weekend.
Absolutely.
And we need to pack that place.
I'm going to correct you, Jerry. There still are some tickets in the grandstand area. So
good. Okay,
get
good.
them now. Well,
good.
They're going to go very quickly when they're not when they're single game tickets. Those are going to go really quickly, but they do have like a whole row of tickets available right now. Some single seat tickets, but they do have some available. So don't wait.
There you go. But get them now because there will be only general admission availability pretty soon if you don't get on them now. So look, I'm excited. I know you're excited. I'm excited. It's good to finally have a regional at Lamson Park. Hopefully we take care of business and South can take care of business, and we'll have a UL South Alabama super regional at Lamson Park for Memorial Day weekend. Fingers crossed on that. But look, if you want to get to that point, first step, beat Princeton on Friday starting at 4:30.
That's it. Yeah.
Well, Rory, we want to thank you so much for coming on. Look, if you want to, you could be our new. Look, you could be the official Ragin Review softball liaison because you know your stuff. We know you listen to the pod. You're a fan of the pod. I know we talk behind the scenes about softball. If anybody's wondering, when I did my softball preview, guess who I asked? I asked this guy, Rory Strentz. He was able to give me the full rundown. And so anytime you want to come back on and talk softball, please come on. We'd love to have you. And it's good to see our softball team continuing their success, and hopefully they'll continue that this weekend as they go for a second year in a row of winning a regional and heading over to a super regional.
Thank you for having me, and go Cajuns.
That's right. Go Cajuns. Well, thank you so much, Rory. There he goes. Rory Strentz, big time diehard Cajun softball fan. Nick, we got some softball to play this weekend. Hopefully they get it done. We talked a lot about what needs to be done, the keys to victory. Any final thoughts before we go?
No, man. Like I said, looking forward to the weekend. Think we're going to pull this one out. It's not going to be an easy road, but looking forward to some good college softball this weekend. Hopefully the weather cooperates and screws everyone else's schedule up but ours, and hope Baylor and Ole Miss go to 18 innings. But other than that, looking forward to a lot of fun this weekend, and should be, hey, anytime you get to host, it's going to be a party in Lafayette, and this won't be any different.
No question about it. Well, that's going to do it here for our Ragin Review softball edition. Just want to let you know again, Cajuns start their regional run on Friday, 4:30 against the Princeton Tigers. Again, if you want to buy ticket packages, you can go online or go to the ticket office at the track and field and get those for the weekend. If you like what we do, please like, subscribe. We're on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Twitch, Instagram, TikTok. You can listen on Spotify and Apple iTunes. One last time, thank you so much to our sponsors, Dr. Brett Venable Recovery Chiromed, as well as Absolutely Embroidery and more. Lots happening this weekend. We've got a softball regional as well as senior weekend for Ragin' Cajun baseball against South Alabama. Hey, if you want to do a double whammy, go for it. Lamson Park and the Teague are walking distance. If you want to go see some postseason softball, go over to Lamson, and right after, go check out the Cajuns try to win an outright conference title at the Teague. For Nick, I'm Jerry. We are the Ragin Review podcast. In the words of the late, great Big Dave Thibodeau, bye, we out of here. We'll see you next week for more Ragin Review. Good luck, ladies. Let's get the job done and head to a super regional. Go Cajuns.